Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to today's EAUC webinar. The title of this webinar is Winning a Job in Sustainability, and it will last about 1 hour. This is the third and final of the 3 webinars about careers in sustainability. My name is Gillian Gibson, and I'm the Scotland Programme Coordinator here at EAUC-Scotland. If you have any specific event, webinar, training request, or anything along those lines, please do get in touch with us at any time. So just a little bit of housekeeping to go over just now. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me okay. As viewers, if you could all keep your audio muted and your videos off, and our speakers will be presenting today. If you have any technical issues throughout the webinar, please let us know through the chat function, and you can contact the EAUC host privately through that. It would be great if you could take a minute just to make sure that you have your full name and institution visible. So you do this through clicking on participants and then hovering over your own name, and you'll see the option to rename there. So if you could pop your name and institution in there, that would be brilliant. So we'll be hearing 10-minute presentations from each of our speakers, and then there'll be a chance to ask questions at the end of the webinar. But feel free to ask any questions along the way through the chat function. Again, if you just address them to everyone, and we'll pick those up and we can ask our speakers those at the end. So feel free to pop those in the chat function at any point. This webinar is being recorded and we'll upload it as a resource with all presentations later on today on the EAUC Sustainability Exchange. Please feel free to share these resources with any colleagues and friends that you think might be interested. Once the webinar is finished, you'll be sent a short survey for us to gain a bit of feedback. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey, as the results will help improve our future events and webinars. So just to get started, welcome again to our third and final careers webinar. The careers project that we've been working on focuses on jobs and sustainability, as well as careers in the wider job market that involve sustainability. We've produced guides which will be downloadable and available at the end of this week. So keep an eye out on those. We'll be emailing you about them. These guides will share advice on understanding, preparing and winning a sustainability job. The webinar today will take a look at how you can prepare and win a job in sustainability, looking at the external networks you can use, with a great example from the 2050 Climate Group here in Scotland, the formal internships and work placements available through companies such as Bright Green Placements, and then finally the support that you can gain through your institution with your CV, cover letter and interview preparations. This will give you an insight into the support and networks available when you're looking to win a sustainability job. So just to introduce our speakers today, we have Katrina Mallows from the 2050 Climate Group, Matilda Heyman from Bright Green Placements, and then Lindsay MacDonald from the University of the West of Scotland. I'm going to invite them just to share a little bit about themselves just now and introduce themselves. So Katrina, if you'd like to start for us.
Hi everyone, I hope you can see me and hope you can hear me. So thanks for that, Gillian. So my name's Katrina Mallows and I am a board trustee for the 2050 Climate Group. I'm also a Highlands and Islands enterprise employee, and I've recently started a graduate programme with HIE. My title is Social Enterprise Development Graduate, and I've been here since May. I studied at the University of Edinburgh. I did a Masters of Arts in Social Anthropology and I graduated last June. So started a job in May and have been working here ever since. So I suppose my career is just beginning. I've had a range of internships and short-term jobs throughout university, but I suppose this is my first sort of proper job. But here today I'm going to talk to you about the 2050 Climate Group and how the expertise I've developed over my involvement with them have allowed me to kind of progress within my career.
Brilliant, thanks Katrina. And Matilda, if you are around, could you pop on your video? Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Matilda Heyman. I work for Bright Green Business, also known as Bright Green Placements. I'm the project coordinator. I manage the environmental placement program, which I'll be talking about a bit later. My background, originally I had a background in welfare policy, but my latest degree was in sustainable urban development. I've had a number of different roles in research and urban development, and now here at Bright Green Business. And I'm hoping to be able to share some knowledge with you about our program, but maybe also generally about jobs and sustainability.
Brilliant, thanks Matilda. And Lindsay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello, my name's Lindsay McDonald. I'm a careers advisor at the University-West of Scotland. I've been in this job for quite a while now, but way back in the day, my degree was in rural resource management. So I've kind of always had an interest in sort of environmental and conservation. As a careers advisor, I now work with the School of Science and Sport. And within the science faculty, we have project management, quality management, conservation, environmental management, and also zoology students. So I have a bit of an understanding about the types of roles that these students could go into. And I do have a sort of an understanding of sustainability too. So hopefully the information I'll give you today will get you started on your job searching, and hopefully you'll be able to access resources within your institutions to further develop this. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks Lindsay. We've been doing this sort of introduction at the start of each of the webinars just to give you a bit of an understanding about people that work broadly in the sustainability sector. Maybe not everyone identifies themselves as working in the sector, but they are involved in some sort of way. And I guess that's a big part of the sustainability jobs, is the fact that there's a really wide scope of what you can do, and your background as well. So Matilda there with welfare policy, and Katrina with social anthropology there. Anyway, so Katrina, would you like to share your slides with us? And we're going to hear about the 2050 Climate Group and how these sort of external networks can help boost your CV and create networks for you.
Hi everybody. I hope that you can see that. So thanks for that, Gillian. Yeah, I'm just going to talk to you a wee bit about networking opportunities outside of university and college and how these can help you with your career development. So I studied social anthropology at university for 4 years, 3 of which were at Edinburgh University, and I had a year abroad. And I absolutely loved my degree. For those of you who don't know, social anthropology is the study of broadly speaking, of culture and societies. And I got a lot of opportunity to develop research skills and report writing and so on and so forth. But during my degree, I also realized that I wanted to develop some more kind of harder skills. And I started getting involved in a lot of extracurricular activities whilst at universities through societies and so on and so forth. But I got involved in the 2050 Climate Group in particular. So what is the 2050 Climate Group? So we're a group of young professionals who share a commitment to climate change mitigation and adaptation, and we want to accelerate Scotland's transition to a low carbon economy. So we work with young people across Scotland to lead a social movement by engaging, educating and empowering Scotland's future leaders to take action on climate change. We've recently become a SCIO, so we're now officially a social enterprise, a Scottish Charitable Incorporated Organisation. We were working under a branch of Young Scot previously. There's 25 Board of Trustees, and we've recently recruited 35 new people who've joined the organisation. So we've got 6 operational subgroups. So we're actually a really, really big organisation, and we're composed of young professionals from all across Scotland who are working in different sectors and different fields and have different interests. So we firmly believe that Scotland's future lies in our hands. And we're really keen that future leaders get their say in shaping how low carbon Scotland becomes and how sustainable it becomes. So one of the ways that we do this is through the Young Leaders Development Programme. Now, I was on the Young Leaders Development Programme in its first year, so that ran from 2015 to 2016. And it's a year-long programme that develops climate change awareness and leadership skills in young professionals or students just leaving university or college. So we engage, educate, empower and lead young professionals. So this slide here just shows you kind of the makeup of the programme. There was a series of events that happened all throughout the year. We covered things such as energy and transport, waste and resources, food and drink. And then there was also a lot about understanding ourselves, understanding how we can influence others and how we can lead for the future. So leadership was a core part of the programme. Now, there were about 130 other young people also on the programme. So a huge cohort of young professionals from across Scotland, and it was really quite amazing to be part of such a network and to develop skills and leadership skills whilst doing so. So one of my projects during my time with the 2050 Climate Group on the Young Leaders Development Programme, I had the opportunity to get involved in a range of different events. We could contribute to policy, Scottish Government policy, for example. We can engage in conversation with organisations, businesses, meet others, really contribute to the conversation that's happening in Scotland in terms of sustainability. But we also were able to organise a big event. So that was called Leading for the Future, the Youth Climate Summit. And this happened last November, so that was November at the end of 2016. And over 300 young people attended from all across Scotland. It was held in the Technology and Information Centre in Glasgow. And it was just a really fantastic event. And I had the opportunity, along with others in the 2050 Climate Group, to help organise that. I specifically organised some workshops that were happening in the afternoon. And it was just an amazing experience. And I really learned a lot about myself and also kind of teamwork and how to engage with organisations and how to kind of facilitate such a big event. So here's some pictures from it. There's Paul Wheelhouse, who came to speak. It was quite a high profile event. As I said, 300 young people attending, but also a range of different businesses, organisations and different speakers. And there were some of the organisers there, some workshops that were happening, and then all of us there from the 2050 Climate Group who had put this event on. So generally, just to speak about 2050 Climate Group, our funders and supporters, you can see there the range of businesses, organisation, Scottish Government. We work quite closely with them, and they are also one of our key funders, as is SEPA and the Scottish Power Foundation. So really quite high profile organisations, and I've, along with all the other young leaders, have had the opportunity to engage with them, to learn with them, and really kind of be at the forefront of transition for Scotland to become a low carbon country. So why do it? Why do anything to do with the 2050 Climate Group? Why do anything to do with extracurricular activities? Why would you want to add on more to your plate than what you've got at university or college? Personally, I've noticed a considerable difference in my own skills after being involved in an extracurricular activity, such as the 2050 Climate Group. Career progression, I know for a fact that actually it was not a main factor, but it was a big factor in my career progression so far, and especially in getting a graduate programme with the Scottish Government agency. So that was, to see the 2050 kind of badge on my CV was quite a big thing. Be part of a growing network of passionate, diverse and young people. It was just absolutely amazing to be part of a cohort of 130 young people working in different sectors from all over Scotland, to learn with them, to develop projects with them, and generally just contribute to the conversation alongside various other people. So that's really, really important, and I really, really enjoyed that, and I'm still engaged in those conversations today. So it's a lasting network that's only going to grow and grow and grow as we've just recruited for our next Young Leaders Development Programme. So that's another 150 young people who are going to be part of that network, and that's just going to grow and grow and grow year on year. Skills development, my communication skills, presentation skills, that sort of thing have really developed over the last year, because I've really had to kind of produce things. We produced the summit, and where 300 young people attended, and we took that on our own backs and we did it voluntarily, and we really kind of produce something. So that was really exciting and quite a good thing to be part of, and you learn a lot. I've built knowledge, so I've built knowledge about climate change, I've built knowledge of how to have an impact, how to interact with businesses, organisations, how I can influence others, and how I also understand myself. Over the last year, I've gained a lot of experience, so that's just general kind of stakeholder engagement, working in a team, working individually, and I've also developed my own confidence in my ability to do things and the ability of a team to carry out things. I put credentials down there because I do think that the 2050 Climate Group it's got quite high credentials now, and I imagine that these are only going to be carried on further as we kind of really progress and create the social movement that we want to see across Scotland. And finally, I think it's important to be part of this because you can inspire others and you can make change. So whether you decide you want to be a part of the 2050 Climate Group, or whether you decide you want to do an extracurricular activity or get involved in another organisation outside of your course or your college course, for example, you can inspire others and you can really make the change that you want to see in the world. So actions speak louder than words. And if I'm going to an employer and they ask me what have I done, how can you show that you care about climate change? I can reference my involvement with the 2050 Climate Group, as opposed to actually just saying I'm passionate about something. You're able to evidence that, and I think that's incredibly important. I've included a little quote there from Nicola Sturgeon because I think that kind of shows how low carbon is a priority for Scotland, but young people are a priority for Scotland, and the 2050 Climate Group is very much a priority for the Scottish Government, and that's incredibly exciting. So I've spoken about all this, but you may want to get involved, and we'd absolutely welcome you to do so. So we've got quite a good presence on social media. You can find us on Facebook at 2050 Climate Group. Hashtag, we use 2050 starts now, hashtag quite a lot. We've got website www.2050.scot. You can find all of our activities on there. There's blog updates, there's a bit about each board trustee, our mission, our vision, so on and so forth. We've got a mailing list, so you can join our mailing list by going onto the website. We organise a series of public events, so that'll be events that are happening throughout the Young Leaders Development Programme, which are actually open to the public and not just young leaders. So that's a great opportunity if you want to meet others, see what's happening at these events, and generally just raise your awareness of climate change and develop your own leadership skills. And finally, if you just want to get in touch, if you want to know a bit more, talk to us personally, then please do contact us. The email address is just there. So just a final quote: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And I think that's quite fitting because Margaret Mead was a social anthropologist. I learned about her during my time at university. But actually, it's after university and being involved in extracurricular activities that I really realised that actually change does come from people kind of getting together and doing things, and often that's through networks and through events outside of your university and college course. So thanks very much for listening. You can see my email address there if you want to contact me to speak about anything to do with the 2050 Climate Group. That's katrina.mallows@2050.scot. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Katrina. It's great to hear about the 2050 Climate Group there. And it's just an example, I guess, of one of the many networks that you could join. But I guess that it's a brilliant one for people that are just leaving or are at university, college, just leaving, as it means that, especially in Scotland, the fact that it's a big group of people, like-minded, interested, networks there with sort of peers and so on, but then also gaining a lot of knowledge and experiences. Like, great to hear about like the events and the communications and doing presentations there, Katrina, just because it's just adding more and more strings to your bow and building up your CV there. So there's so many opportunities. Brilliant. So on to Matilda, if you would like to chat about Bright Green business or Bright Green placements.
Hi there, I'm just going to share my PowerPoint. Hopefully everyone can see it. There we go. So that was great to hear from Katrina. The link between 2050 and Bright Room Placements is quite nice. A lot of the young leaders have done placements through us. I've attended some of the events myself, and I'm always amazed how much of a link there is. And funny enough, we used the same quote for our own promotional video. So there's definitely a link in what we believe in. So I'm going to talk about Bright Green placements and the importance and also the opportunity of doing short-term placements and internships to boost your career, and also just to get a taster of what's out there in the field of sustainability. So I work for Bright Green Business. We are a small not-for-profit business based in Edinburgh, but we work all over Scotland, and our aim is to help businesses with their environmental management. And one of our key services is the student and graduate placements. So we get clients, organisations and companies across Scotland to contact us when they have some work that needs doing in the field of, again, environmental management. And we put the word out there and help them find a student or graduate to do the work for them. So there are short-term paid placements. So in particular, we offer the Environmental Placement Program, also known as EPP. So they're, as I said, they're paid. They're short-term, 8 to 12 weeks long, and they run throughout the year. So you can apply at any time. Unless you're at university, then it depends whether the option of part-time is there, but these are ultimately jobs. But they're really fantastic. So the idea behind our placements is that they're project-based. So we like students and graduates to go into a job with a project in mind, which means it's something that they can work towards, something that you can have ownership of, something that you can have independence on. So you kind of arrive and you'll basically hit the ground running. In some cases, you'll be in a really small business and you will be the kind of in-house expert and you'll be expected to do the job. And it can sound a bit daunting, but it's exactly what usually you want after university, because you'll be so fresh with ideas on the topic, and you'll be surprised how much knowledge you have and how it can be applied to the real world. But EPP is, of course, great, but short-term employment in general is a very, very good way to get a foot through the door and kind of start your career. I've done a few in my career, and it's kind of I don't want to say no commitment, but it's kind of a risk-free start to a job, and you can test different areas. So I did research for a bit, and I loved it, but it's maybe not exactly what I need in my career. So I would definitely recommend them, especially if they're short-term, and hopefully they're paid as well. We really support paid employment. All of our placements offer the Scottish living wage. And I definitely, I would recommend it to everyone to try it out, especially after university, or if they are wanting a career change. This is a good place to start. It will give you a snapshot into the kind of careers that are out there, and it will be good for you to test a profession. And if it's project-based, you'll be able to leave with something that you can call your own, something that you've started and finished, something that the company will be able to continue maybe without you, which is also very important. So we work, well, I've kind of spoken about this already, but yeah, basically for our environmental placement program, we pay, it's tax-free allowance, it's paid weekly. Again, responsibility and independence on your own topic. I'm going to talk about the employers next. And we also have a great event in September where everyone who's participated in our placements can participate in an award ceremony where we nominate most enterprising green graduate of the year. and it's open to everyone. So please feel free to come along. It's held at the Scottish Parliament. The date is still to be confirmed, but it'll be September. And it's just a really good networking event. It's really interesting to hear what everybody's been up to. I'll tell you a bit more about our case studies at the end, and you'll get a bit more of an idea of what kind of work everyone's up to. So our employers, we work with a lot of different people in Scotland. Scottish Government is our main funder, and they're very important and they support us a lot. Without them, there wouldn't be the environmental placement program at all. The employers, the reason they really need placements and internships is because for them it's also a risk-free employment strategy. They are able to employ people straight out of university who possibly don't have a lot of experience in the professional world, and they'll be able to bring them in on a project-specific placement, and without having to worry about a kind of a permanent contract at that stage. I mean, it is possible after the placement that this happens, but they want to be able to recruit you and kind of test you in a way and give you a chance to prove that you're able to do it, basically. And it's, yes, for employers, it's also a great way to, it's a great way to try out new employees and decide whether they will be offered the position. To be honest, I think 80% of our employees are usually offered an extension, maybe not a permanent position, but at least an extension. So these are some of our graduates and that have worked with us in the past. They're from last year's cohort. I'll quickly go over just a couple of them. Dia in the middle, I'll point to her with my mouse. This is Dia. She worked for the Scottish Parliament, and she was involved looking at transport and how staff and visitors came to the Parliament and how that could be potentially reduced. So a huge project that she did in 6 weeks. And she also won Most Enterprising Green Student of the Year. And then here, Tom and Ursula, they worked for, Ursula worked for Edinburgh College and Tom worked for Queen Margaret University, and they were cycling officers looking at how they could increase cycling to campuses, and their work was great that we even got them to present together at the award ceremony. It's not all transport. Viva here worked for SEPA on the NetRegs project. They help businesses in Scotland. They give them environmental guidance, basically. So we have a lot of other case studies, and we'd love to share them with you if you'd like to hear more. We are, of course, on social media, which I haven't added here, but you can find us on Facebook as Bright Green Placements. We're on Twitter as well. We share lots of advice. You can sign up for our newsletter. We share general advice about CVs and interviews and also about the sector. And I'm happy for you to get in touch if you have any other questions. Oh, and we'll be at the Edinburgh Uni Graduate Fair on Thursday if you'd like to come and speak to us in person. And that's it for me.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Matilda. It's great to hear, actually, the idea that, yes, you don't need to just dive into a career straight off. Like the fact that these short-term employment, these internships and so on are just such a brilliant way to find what suits you, what's out there. There's just so many possibilities, and I know that it can be overwhelming sometimes when you think you're coming out of university, college, and going, what do I want to do now? And these are brilliant for a bit of a taster, to get some skills and work on some projects and so on. So it's really great to hear what's available. And now, just to say, we've got a question already from Alvin. We'll address that at the end after the presentations, but keep your questions coming in, everyone. Just type them into the chat box and we'll ask our speakers at the very end. Lindsay, are you ready to go with your presentation? I've just unmuted you for the
Oh,
minute.
sorry,
If you want
I was
to,
just coming out.
if you
I'm
want
just trying
to,
to find my presentation.
no, it's grand. If you just want to share your screen, that would be cracking.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yep, and then if you just want to put it into, yeah, slide mode for so from the beginning.
Sorry, I'm using my laptop, so it takes a while. Okay, everything okay?
Yeah, grand.
Right, thank you. Well, I'm going to talk to you very briefly today about the following. Obviously, getting started on your job search, where to look for jobs. Some of our speakers earlier have given you some new ideas, and there's lots of websites out there, so I won't cover them all. I'll just give you a short insight into where you could look. I'll probably then touch a wee bit on about creating a CV, a covering letter, and preparing for an interview. Again, this could go on for ages and a couple of hours on all these different things, so I'll keep it quite brief just to give you some pointers to get started, and then hopefully you'll then be able to use follow-up resources in your own institution to get more information around these themes. And then I'll touch on briefly at the end the resources that are out there that you can tap into, whether you're at college, university, or elsewhere. Okay? So, the two things there are obviously getting started. I know it's very obvious, and a lot of you are already thinking, I know all this already, but there's no harm in starting at the start, I think. Time to plan. It does take time to apply and prepare for graduate jobs. You have to factor in a lot of things, along with your coursework, your dissertation, your part-time jobs, all your other life commitments. So things are coming to a head now if you are still at university, so you've got a lot of other things going on. And the last thing you want to do is try and think about applying for jobs. But now is the time to do it. You need to start applying for jobs and looking before you come to the end of your course. Although you're quite busy at the moment, it may be worthwhile if you can, possibly setting out maybe 1 or 2 hours a week to job searching. And this will help you focus and see what resources are out there, lots of websites you might want to use. There'll also be websites that you don't want to use, so we need to keep an eye out on that. And it'll also help you feel like you're moving forward, getting ready to start applying and moving into the job market once you finish your course. The next part is obviously research. As with anything nowadays, you need to prepare. You need to research what's out there, and certainly job searching is no different from anything else, coursework or otherwise. Each graduate will have a list of criteria, questions that they have, companies they want to work for, what graduate people, what employers will recruit me, what are the best websites to use, when's the best time to apply. So there's lots of questions, there'll be lots of criteria that you'll be looking for from a company. Do you want to work for a small company, a large company, local company, that type of thing. So it does help to use some of the resources I'm going to talk about in the next couple of slides to see what's out there. They're already ahead of the game by coming along to webinars like this, so hopefully we can build on that and start to use other resources to help you see the type of picture that sustainability means. Okay, so here's how we can move forward on that. Terminology, as Gillian said right at the very start, sustainability can mean lots of things to lots of different people and also lots of different organisations. So I put up terminology can sometimes be a barrier when it comes to job searching, because lots of job titles all mean things to some people and you won't understand what they mean in other areas. So be flexible, be creative. I put a couple of words up there that certainly when I was looking under sustainability, these are the kind of job titles that keywords that popped up. But there's a range of websites, there's a range of resources out there, so start to think about what kind of areas within sustainability umbrella you'd like to look at. When you are job searching, and I know this is probably again common sense, but read both the job title and the job advert, because some employers, a job title will mean one thing, but the job advert, the actual details of your job description, the person spec will be something completely different. So make sure you read both, and if you are matching most of the criteria, then you can certainly put an application in. And it's interesting out there, you can sometimes find the dream job for you in the least likely places. So you need to be creative and flexible in where you're looking, what you're looking for. Probably the first bit about where to look for jobs is probably your own networks. Don't underestimate the power of who you know. I think that's quite important. Lots of people, lots of friends, family contacts can actually help you source jobs. Your networking is quite important nowadays. So have a think about who do you know. You've got friends and family, fellow students, your current graduates, once you've got a couple of years, 6 months down the line, that'll be also a network for you. And that's someone else you can tap into sourcing jobs through that network. Fellow colleagues through your part-time jobs, if you've been in placement as well, or been involved in extracurricular activities as well. Again, that's a source of a network. Do they have jobs? Do they know people that are looking for people? That's how you can start to build up your network. So it is quite important to think about who you already know. Obviously, you've got your colleagues from your lecturing staff as well, from your courses. They will also be in contact with employers. So there's a whole range of networks out there that you can certainly tap into. The biggest one is obviously going to be LinkedIn. A lot of students now are using LinkedIn. A lot of employers are using LinkedIn, especially some of the smaller organisations that don't have budgets to advertise in key areas. So they're certainly going to be using social media to tap into that. So professional LinkedIn is good for searching for jobs. You can also network and and find like-minded people, which is certainly something that one of our speakers said earlier. And companies also use it to search for future employees as well. So if you have a good LinkedIn profile, you can also start to showcase all the other things that you've been doing through you can add attachments and things to your LinkedIn profile to showcase your work, your research and things you've been doing in your course. Social media and other areas, you can actually start to create your own brand, self-promotion. Are you involved in blogs? Do you have your own blog about certain sustainability or environmental issues? Do you have where you can showcase your own videos of things you've been involved in, projects, events you've been setting up? You can also use social media like Twitter and things to follow other organisations to keep up to date with what's going on in the sector. Certainly that will be useful for sometimes employers advertise jobs through LinkedIn and social media first, and then you've also got the chance for the research. When you start to get interviews, you need to use social media to find out about the organisations you're going to work for. These are some of the websites that might be useful for you to job search on. There's a whole range of other job websites out there, but certainly these are the ones I've used in the past with some of our students from the zoology and conservation environmental type courses. So these are very specialist to sustainability environmental, but they've also, don't forget, even traditional ones like S1 Jobs, My Job Scotland, where all the local authorities advertise the vacancies. The Indeed website is a huge search engine, again, a useful one, and even monster.co.uk, obviously that's a UK-wide website as well. So there's lots of everything nowadays on the internet, which is great, but it also means that there's lots and lots of websites to choose from. You will not have time to use them all, so you need to be selective about which ones fit your brief, which ones are focusing on the areas that you want to work in. Although you can't get a job without applying, unfortunately. So nowadays you do need to have an application form or some sort of application process to go through. These are very, very basic tips, but make sure you read the job advert. Whatever the employer is looking for will be listed in this job advert person specification. So it is important that you are creating a CV or a job application that reflects what the employer is looking for in the job advert. So you may have to make small changes to your CV or to your covering letter each time you apply for a job. One CV does not fit all jobs you're applying for. This all takes time, as I said at the start, so you may want to start to think about how you're going to factor all this additional application forms, prepare for interviews into your busy schedule, but you will need to have time. Save the advert, keep a copy of your CV and application. This is obviously useful for when you start to get to the interview stage, and I can't tell you the amount of times a student said to me, "Oh, I can't remember what the job advert was. I didn't see that." So we're trying to prepare for an interview and we don't really know what the job's about. So these are just your very, 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 very basic tips. Okay, so here we go into the CV and graduate CV and covering letter. The CV essentials are the big list there. Don't feel you have to cover everything in your CV, but think about some of the key areas that you want to showcase to the employer. Some people will go straight in with a personal profile. Some people maybe want to go in and talk about their education on their first page. What have you done in your qualifications that will be relevant to the job you've got? So your degree is not just about modules, it's also about group work, projects, maybe even done a placement as part of your course. Certainly in HNCs and HNDs, you've got your graded unit, which is a large-scale project for honours students, it's your dissertation. These are things that you can certainly showcase to the employer that I've taken my knowledge from my course and I've brought it into the workplace. If you have been on employment and you've managed to secure work experience with placement, you might want to think about trying to take that and put that into a separate heading from maybe your part-time job that you've had while you were at university. Focus the CV towards the job, the advert and the sector. You can certainly keep it to 2 pages. You can do a 1-page focus CV. If you've got extensive work history, you may want to do a 3-page CV, but again, we need to make sure we're focused and make it relevant to the jobs you're applying for. I always say this to students, structure versus content. You may have a fantastic lots of experience, your CV has got all that information there, but if it's not clearly laid out and it's not easy for the employer to see, then they're not going to spend time reading that. Okay. You've also need to show professional language. I don't need to tell you that, but just may as well think about it. Smiley faces, LOLs, text talk. This is a professional document, so make sure you give the right impression to the employer. What usually goes with a covering letter is also with your CV is a covering letter. A covering letter allows you to introduce yourself to the employer. So the covering letter and the CV do go hand in hand together. Keep it brief, usually about 1 page. How does your education fit with the job? Highlighting practical experience that you have that will help you do the job you're applying to, and obviously keeping it positive and motivation for applying for the role. So it could be something you've done previously, do a voluntary placement, and now you want to apply for the job. It may be that you're moving up, you're progressing on to a consultant role or a manager role or something that's very relevant to what you've been doing previously. So motivation for the role gives the employer an insight into why you're applying for the job. If we get to an interview stage, then you're doing really, really well. Most employers will not interview everyone that's applied for the job. So we need to make sure if you get to that stage, then you've done something well on your CV or application form. There's a couple of tips there about preparing before you go for the interview. So research the job. So review the job advert again. Read it through, highlight any areas of the job advert that you can evidence, and then start to create notes about when you've used these skills, experiences that relate to the job. Research the company, research the organisation, what's their ethics, their aims, their ethos, what work do they do. Definitely check out any news sections on their website because they may give you an insight into what the company is doing in the future direction. These are questions that you can then ask the employer as well. The final set bits are research yourself. You need to find out about your CV, your application form, review everything that you've written down and start to develop notes or examples that you can start to use in the interview. I like to interview. I like to prepare myself before I go for an interview, so I will interview myself. You can do this through an interview with a mock interview with a careers advisor, a trusted friend, or you can just interview yourself, list some questions you'd like to ask and start talking. Because an interview is really about a presentation. The more at ease you are talking about yourself and how good you are, the easier it becomes. It's never going to be completely easy. You're always going to be a wee bit nervous at an interview, but it's really good to do it that way. So be prepared to talk at the interview, show your enthusiasm, and smile and relax. On the right-hand side, there's some sort of possible interview formats. So the employer will be asking questions about yourself, about what you know about the company, your skills and experience, also your future plans, your goals, your motivations. Okay. So finally, the resources here are for any student that can access. The websites along the top, Target, Prospects, the Job Crowd and Glassdoor are forums, websites that any student can access, and they're open to anyone. And there's some really good information there about the whole application process, CVs, interviews, that type of thing. Each college university will also have its own career service, which will offer a range of resources, specialist staff that can help you with all aspects of your career plans, future aspirations, and also applying for graduate jobs. There's also Skills Development Scotland, which is an all-age guidance provider, which is available to anyone to use. So you can certainly use either or both of these resources. Okay, the information is there for you to access. Check out your university or college's website to access the resources, and you may be able to access the service once you've graduated as well. It's worth checking with your institution directly about that. Okay, that's me. Thank you very much for your time.
Brilliant, thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, if you just stop sharing the presentation, perfect. And we can just pop on videos, speakers, if you wouldn't mind popping on your videos and unmuting yourself. I thought that was really interesting about the CVs there. What you're saying about the fact that in your course, like quite a lot of people will just put the course that they have, but quite often there's so much more that you do in your university course, reading and projects and so on, that might be applicable. So that's always an added bonus to pop that in as well. That's sometimes something that's forgotten.
Well, we forget. We list all the modules, but we forget to talk about what all that actually means in practical terms.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, a reminder that we will have the presentations and so on up on the Sustainability Exchange, and we'll email you with the link for that. So all of the links and contact details and so on that our three speakers have put up today, they will be available to you afterwards. Just make sure that you type we'll do some questions just now. So if you have any questions for the speakers, please just pop them in the chat box at the moment. That would be brilliant. We've already got a couple come through. It looks one specifically for you, Katrina, about the 2050 climate group and specifically the Young Leaders Development Programme from 2017. So the deadline for that was just recently, but one of our viewers has missed it. And what are the other possibilities to get involved with informal events, for instance?
Well, some of the events will be made public, so public can attend them. I'm not sure of the exact dates for those, but if you have a look on the website and all our social media channels, it'll be advertised there. Generally, I just encourage you to find us on social media, follow our activities on the website, have a look at our blog posts, and often there are kind of one-off events that we're organising that the public can attend, and they'll all be advertised there. So I'd say that for informal activity. But also just watch the horizon, because we'll be running the Young Leaders Development Programme next year. So just keep your eyes peeled for that, and send in an application if you're interested.
I would definitely say the mailing list is always a good one to be on, just because sort of anything that we're or the 2050 group are announcing, it goes out on the mailing list usually. So that's usually quite handy. Thank you very much, Katrina. We also have a question asking, do you have any more references and pieces of advice on 1 or 2 year graduate placements in Europe? That's quite it's maybe a bit of a tricky question. Lindsay, maybe? I don't know if you have any ideas. If not, we can take this offline. We'll find some people to chat to and get some ideas. And we can get
to source placements in Europe.
Well, yeah, it's 1 to 2 years graduate placements in Europe. So I think that means just work placements, sort of short term.
I don't know if they're always sometimes placements tend to be 6 months to a year, depending on the organisation. If you're looking to go Europe wide or global, a good website is called Going Global. Okay, now some institutions have licenses for that. We do, which means that students can get access to it, and they can share, they can save their job searches, and that has country profiles for all countries in the world, and also job internships and graduate jobs. If your institution doesn't have a license, then you can still access it through the Going Global website. It just means that you may not be able to save all your job searches, but you can still access all the resources that are there. So that's quite a good website to have a look at in the first instance.
Okay, no, that does sound good.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
From my experience, when it comes to internships and placements, depending on whether you want to be paid, it's worth just Googling organizations and businesses that you are interested in, and then emailing them and telling them that you are free for 6 months or a year and that you're really keen to get involved, and you'd be surprised how many would get back to you with or without an opportunity. But I did that in the past when I was at university. I needed an internship and I just emailed a few organizations across Europe, and if they don't have anything then, they'll still probably be quite impressed and they can contact you in the future if a position becomes available. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, is actually just taking that initiative and approaching companies, which it might sound so far out for when you're just graduating and so on, but if you're interested in them and want to learn more, then it's definitely an option, and it gets your name sort of on an email in someone's inbox, and yeah, it might pick up their interest a bit of someone that's actually approaching them.
It can work. Yeah, a speculative approach can work. Just be careful if it is an unpaid internship that you're not taking advantage of in terms of working long hours and things like that. It's just that we've got to, as a university, we do watch for advocating unpaid internships for students. The other website maybe is Erasmus interns. I can send you the links, Gillian. That might be another one too, and that covers the whole of Europe for a range of internships for small organisations.
That would be brilliant. Yeah, well, okay. What we'll do is that we'll take all the questions from this, and we will just pop those up on the website as well with some maybe links and things like that. We have another question from Melissa. This is specifically sort of regarding CVs, and asking where, like in your CV, and how is it best to put across relevant seminars or events that you've attended, or is it best to put that in your covering letter?
Probably a bit both, actually, depending on how long you want to make your covering letter. But if you've been attending seminars like this, or you've got professional membership of certain bodies and you've been going to networking events and things, I would either call it, put it under additional information. So there I would probably have all my memberships of organisations and student bodies. I'd also have webinars and professional events I've attended. I would probably put that under additional information. If you wanted to, you could put it under your education if some of your events have been linked to the course you're studying. You can certainly put it under there. I would make reference to it in the covering letter because that shows that you've gone a bit above and beyond in terms of thinking about employability and your career plans. So you've actually gone out of the way to take on information with networking events and professionals to find out what the sector's looking for. So I think that would be quite good to mention it in the covering letter, but evidence and detail in the CV under additional information section.
Brilliant. I think that's actually such a good point as well, as the fact that it's sort of showing that you've gone out your way, you're doing something, it's something that you're really interested in, and I think that ties in quite well with the 2050 group there, and the fact of like you found a network and you're interested in them and so on. So it's good to put them on your CV if you're involved, if you're on the Young Leaders Programme, or if you get involved with some of their events and things like that. I think it is always good to show that you're doing things out with just your education or your current job and so on. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions coming through just now, but a question that we'd actually had before, which was quite interesting, was the idea of if someone was in was doing, say, business or finance, but are interested in sustainability, but maybe their experience doesn't look that relevant, how would you best go around showing your interest or your involvement for a sustainability job? I don't know whether Tilly or Lindsay, this might fall with either of you.
Well, I come across this quite a lot for the placements. So I read hundreds of CVs a week, and it can be done very well. It's not that difficult, especially if it's something you're passionate and interested about. It's just, I think a lot of people assume that employers can make the connection between what you've done and what they want, and you kind of have to spell it out to us. So if you're interested in sustainability, you need to make that very clear on your CV, and a lot of people are very keen to show that they've had a lot of jobs as like working in cafes or in shops, which is great, but it comes to a stage in your career where you're looking to work in a specific sector, and having a job in a cafe no longer is that relevant to what you're applying for. So you need to kind of push all those little jobs maybe to the bottom. They're still important, but customer care, there are other ways you can demonstrate that without necessarily saying that you had a job doing customer care. So if sustainability is what you want, that's what you need to focus on your CV, even if it's not necessarily your professional background. So if you've read books, you can use your interest section, you can use your personal profile, you can do your studies if you've done any online courses or events. Those are the things that you want to push to the top, basically. Always put the most relevant at the beginning. You need to catch the attention of the employer right from the get-go, because we don't have time to scroll down to page 3 to read about finally why you're applying for this job. So that's my advice. So it's definitely possible, and it's not that difficult to do. You just have to make sure that you're catching the attention of the employer.
Brilliant. I think that's yep, crack on.
I'll just add on to that. Yeah, after studying social anthropology, and then kind of moving into public sector and working for a Scottish Government agency just now, I had to very much find skills that I developed during my university degree that are applicable to perhaps a different sector, or perhaps the public sector, for example. So I think be quite rigorous in looking at what you've done and any specific skills that you've developed through that are incredibly useful for the sector that you're wanting to go into, and really, be quite clear about them.
Yeah, I think that's something that we highlight quite strongly in the guides, is the fact that these there's transferable skills in pretty much everything that you do or any work that you've done. So definitely get your personal interests and so on in there, but also your transferable skills for that job. It's worth getting those highlighted as well, because there will be things that are applicable from anything that you've done. Brilliant. I think we're just about to run out of time. That's nearly 2 o'clock. So I just want to say a massive thank you to our speakers today. It has been so good to hear a bit more about how to build up your CV, build networks, and what a good CV, and some great tips and so on there as well, and CVs, cover letters and interviews. So thank you so much. Like I said at the start, we will, this has been recorded, so we'll be sending out the recording, the link with the presentations and everything, that should be with you later today. And also our careers guides are coming out at the end of the week, which is very exciting. Actually, I can show you the part of that just now. So yeah, our careers guide will be available from eauc.org /UK/careers. So those will be downloadable and available at the end of the week. So just finally, thank you everyone, and I hope you have a nice day, and thanks for joining us. Okay, cheers.
Thank you.